Welcome to another brand new episode of the Best of the Best podcast presented by the Brinks Armored Account. I am your host, Maverick Levy. On today's show, we have someone that I can't stop staring at, Brody, that dude. We have Cliff Brush. We have Luna over here. I'm excited for this one because not only is Cliff and Brody, I shall say, an internet sensation, but also very, very close friends of mine, of the podcast. Cliff, welcome.
Thank you, man.
I always like to say the best part to start, I think, is letting you give a breakdown of who you are. If someone were to meet you and say, what do you do for a living? What's your story? So the floor is yours.
Well, most people know me as Brody's dad, but my name is Cliff Brush. We run the social media account, Brody That Dude, and by we, I mean Brody and I. We have over 16 million followers across all platforms. We like to make stuff that's almost a timeline cleanser, bringing joy and spreading smiles. And we like to make fun, lighthearted content together.
The discussions on this podcast are for informational purposes only. I cannot predict and do not guarantee that you will attain a particular result from the information provided. You should always seek professional assistance before making decisions in connection with the topics discussed. Yeah, I think what you guys do is always put a smile on people's face. I know people that I know and I love. When we first became friends, we're like, oh my God, is that Brody? And, it's cool because sometimes there's clients or people that are like, can you please have Cliff take a video of Brody for my daughter? Which Cliff, that's one thing about you. No matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, no matter who you're with, if someone is coming up to you and is like, hey, can I get a picture or do something? You always say yes.
Yeah.
Do you ever get tired of it?
No, we're always happy to meet fans in real life, and Brody's always happy for the attention. He loves giving hugs to strangers or followers. We call them bromies. The only times it's inconvenient is if I'm taking him for a walk around the neighborhood and I have a poop bag in my hand, and then someone wants a picture or something, and I'm just like in basketball shorts and a wife beater,
Crocs with the flashlights.
And the Crocs, yeah. Other than that, though, we always love the interactions.
I think too, I want to explain how we met because I think it's kind of funny.
It was that way. That's how we met.
Yeah, it was that way. So I used to live, both Cliff and I used to live in Boca Raton, Florida. And A1A, which is the ocean that parallels with the beach, Cliff would always film his content there, and I would always see him, and I'd always see the license plate, and I'm a big dog guy, so you would always come up on my For You page. And then this is so funny. The one time that we interacted, where you were getting kicked out of the parking lot.
Yeah.
And then I knew the cop, and I was like, no, he's okay. Just let him stay. And then
pulling strings.
Yeah. And then you were able to stay.
Yeah.
I was actually on a walk with my dogs. And then this is the funniest thing. So I always say, I always claim that I'm Brody's uncle. It's always what I've claimed. And before we met that one time, exchanged phone numbers. But then the next time I met you, we were in the Celsius suite at the Panthers game, and I was eating chicken fingers. And then I set them down on the ground, and out of nowhere, I just see this big animal come and take my chicken fingers. And I was like, it has to be Brody. When he turned away, I'm like, it has to be Brody, which is very rare for Brody to do something like that. He doesn't usually do that.
Yeah, he's a polite lad, so it was weird that he stole your chicken fingers, but he knew he can get one off Unc without any trouble.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think this is a interesting question to ask you, but you interact with a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of people want to be friends with you for the wrong reasons, right? They just want to be around Brody. Have you ever had to weed out people that came in your life and you were not aware of the fact as to why they were there, and then it turned out later on why they were there?
I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, and we're in South Florida also, which is like
a sunny place for shady people.
Right.
Shout out AJ Sholowitz, made that up.
It's like the capital of, well, here in LA, but Miami and LA, it's what can you provide for me? And then that's kind of how much they'll decide that they'll like you and how polite they'll be to you just to leverage that relationship. But we I'm a grown man at this point, so it's not like I'm like a younger kid who doesn't understand that people are trying to take advantage or whatever. So I think people also know that. So in relationships or like in day-to-day meeting and stuff, it's I keep my circle close and I
Yeah.
don't let those people in, but there is like been in the past like relationships and stuff where a clout, so to speak,
Yeah.
that's obviously a factor. But
Can we talk about?
dude, no, cut this out. You
No,
can't
I know you were
say
gonna cut
Put
it
her
out.
on blast.
you beep it,
He'll
bleep it,
beep it.
bleep it, and then
Yeah,
cut it out.
he'll bleep
Yeah,
it. So we
no.
can't talk about her.
No, definitely not.
Why?
He's referencing I
A
don't even wanna
big fan. A big fan
a big fan
of yours.
of mine and Brody's. But that's all we'll say. Let's just cut that out.
He doesn't want to talk about it. You'll bleep the whole thing. Are there ever times where you felt that Brody has been in a situation that he shouldn't be in and you have to immediately get him out of that situation?
Nothing that I put him in. Pretty much, if he's with me, he's comfortable. The only times that there's only one time I can even think of that was like extra sketchy, and it wasn't just him. I wanted to get the situation also. Was we were doing a road trip, me and my old cameraman, and we stopped in Riley, North Carolina. I think it was Riley. It was just a stop right after the exit at 3 a.m. We pulled up to a gas station, and it was empty. And then within like 5 minutes, there was a car parked next to me getting gas. There was a car parked on the other side getting gas, and there was a car parked in front of us at the convenience store. And I could just tell dude got out and he was trying to chop it up with us, just trying to get close. And it was so sketchy. So I put the window down and I let Brody hang his head out. And he didn't know that Brody would just lick him to death. Like there's nothing he's going to do. But yeah, that was a very sketchy situation. And we got out of there quick. There's more to that story, but the short answer is that. But everything else he's comfortable with. It's hard to rattle Brody.
What are all the things you've done with Brody? Jet ski.
Dude, this is we need a lot of time for this. Helicopter rides, bike rides, jet ski, sidecar, motorcycle,
McLaren.
supercars, hypercars, airplanes, boats. Just name it. He's literally done it. Oh, water hoverboards, that thing, the hydro board. Yeah, he does everything with me.
What about when you're in public with Brody, and do you ever sense when Brody's getting tired? Because I think you guys have such a special bond. I think that's apparent to everyone, right? But you guys have such a special bond where do you pick up on when it's time to get out of somewhere and go?
Yeah, like he's always wagging his tail trying to greet everyone. So it's rare that he's starting to display signs of like lethargic energy. But it's so easy for me to pick up on, and it's usually if we went to an event for a few hours and he just greeted maybe literally hundreds of people, then I'm like, okay, let's go back to the hotel room. Time to take a nap. But like this, but like he's down for whatever, and it takes a lot for him to get tired.
I can imagine. I mean, just in the short spans of whether we went to Toronto together or going to events with you, I mean, I always say like Brody knows he's famous, right?
Yeah.
Like I always say that because you see the way he interacts and the way he behaves. It's different than when we're here hanging out. And it's not bad. It's just different in the way of
Right.
he puts on a persona just how
Meet
the
and
same
greet persona. Right.
like you're not gonna act the same in your house or wear the same things in your house as you do when you go to public places, when you go to dinner, right?
Right.
You could eat dinner on your couch with your feet up. If you're at a restaurant, you're probably not going to put your feet up because as humans, we understand how to act in certain environments. And that's why I say that I always think that Brody knows he's famous because he knows how to act in situations when he's put in public. Has there ever been a time where another dog has tried to attack Brody? Because I know it's always a friendly situation.
I'm very protective of Brody, so if I just sense that a dog might be untrained or could be a liability, I usually shut it down quick. So Brody's never got into any altercations. Luna, before I knew better, when she was younger, I used to take her to dog parks. So she's been attacked twice at a dog park. So that's when she's demanding you pet
I
her in
know
a
she wants me to pet her so
she heard her
bad.
name. But yeah, so I learned from that, and yeah, I make it my mission to keep him safe.
Listen, Cliff, I will say this, right? We've been friends for a couple years now, but I think more importantly, the work effort, the work ethic and effort that you put into what you do is so commendable because we talked
Thank
about
you.
this a little on the short form, but people just think you have a dog. Like
Right.
when I tell people this all the time, I'll give you a real life example. A couple things here. The first thing is I tell people, "Oh yeah, Brody, that dude, I'm his uncle, right?"
Hmm.
And Cliff is a close friend of mine, and people are like, "How easy is that?"
Right.
Like he
Right.
just has his dog and he just has to film his dog. Like how easy is that? And then I almost start to get offended because I'm like, you probably couldn't do
Right.
what Cliff is doing because of the strategy that goes into it, studying trends, studying algorithm,
Right.
the amount of editing that goes into it. I mean, listen, we're similar in the fact that we both run late, but you're running late because you're editing. Sometimes I'm running late because of my OCD, but you're running late because you're editing and you're trying to get the next thing out there. And I think a lot of people undermine how much you put into the content, and it's in a way where it's always engaging. Your videos are always engaging, your videos are always pushing positivity, and I think it's really commendable how much effort you put into something like that. Do you think that you see other creators out there, whether pet influencers or normal, that just do it to do it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that first of all. And like people who know me say the same thing. Like they'll have, acquaintances or friends of theirs that don't know me and will say something along the same lines of just how easy it is or whatever. And I'm not here to tell you that this is the hardest job in the world or anything like that, but there is definitely a strategy and a mindset to have when thinking big picture for your brand and how to make it something that has longevity. Because when I started creating content in 2020, all of the biggest creators, they're not even around anymore. The people that I was like looking for inspiration and stuff. So to make a social presence, online presence, be long lasting and relevant for a long time is definitely a challenge. So that's something that we focus on. But I know some, the creators that I keep closest to me, I would probably say they work just as hard or they do work harder. Because those are the people I choose to keep around. But there's so many majority of the influencers and creators online, the relevance is fading, and they won't be here a year from now or even
Mm-hmm.
3 months from now. So and because they probably take it for granted and they don't put the work and the effort in to keep growing and keep adapting and grow that community and provide something that's valuable.
Yeah. When did you realize that you and Brody had this special bond?
Probably when he was like 8 months old. I would say when he was 8 months old, that's just like when I was like, okay, I think because I used to even say like he was my best friend, but I wouldn't even believe it. Like I would say it and I'd be like, that's a dog. Like he's not really my best friend.
Right.
And but then around like 8 months to like a year, I was like, wait, he actually is my best friend. Like he is like. I love him. So I think 8 months to a year is when I realized that we had something special.
And I think the other question that I'm always asked is the one that I've never seen you been asked before, but l- you know, and I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but there is a point in time of the life cycle, right?
Hmm.
As someone's alive and then they're not anymore. And I'm superstitious, so I'll knock on wood and say, God forbid. But do you think about that or?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you don't have to say it. It's said, every day in my comments, I'll usually get at least 2 or 3 comments on one of the platforms of it's going to be such a sad day when Brody's gone. It's going to be just pointing to it. So it's not something that obviously I haven't thought about before, but I mean, it's true. It's dogs are not here for our entire life. So that's kind of how a lot of my content is based. It's I know he's not here forever, so I want him to have the best life possible. I want to do the coolest stuff with him, and then when it's all said and done, I don't care what some internet troll or some commenter that didn't like that I was doing something with him says, because I want him to just have the best life ever, because I know one day he won't, but legends never die. So So I always think about all the content I put on these platforms. It'll be like a storybook. Like even when I have
Yeah.
kids, and
Yeah.
if Brody's not here anymore, I could show them. They can go through all my old content, years of videos to see their dad and
Yeah.
Brody doing cool stuff. So
I I think it's a huge testament to, like you said, legends live on forever. I had to ask you that question, and I don't like to talk about that, so I'm going to move on from it. But I would say that is literally the number one thing people always ask me is like, "Oh,
yeah,
what is he going to do when
it's
Brody's
the
not
friend
here
of my
anymore?"
friend. Whoever it's always that question is always mentioned by people who know, like my friends who know Brody. That's like always the first thing they say for some reason. Um, and it's I think part of it is like they want to mention and negate some of the stuff we've accomplished. Like it's not gonna last forever.
Hmm.
It whatever. But yeah, it doesn't bother me at this point.
Isn't that such a weird thing in human nature?
Yeah, it
Like,
is.
people want to see the downfall of someone else, and
Yeah,
it's so weird.
and it's funny because I've had like over the last 4 years when you have videos that reach every corner of the internet and you get so much feedback from every type of person, you really get to see like human psychology at a scale that you don't understand if you're not getting consistent feedback from people nonstop.
Yeah.
And so it's I don't I don't want to say this nicely, but there's so many sheep out there that like are so easily like swayed one way or the other. Like I remember when I used to have a video go viral, and if the comments were starting to go away, and this is back in the day. Now I don't even have this issue, but back in the day, if I had and the comments were starting to go one way, if I would delete some comments, and then it can completely change the direction of the rest of the comments coming, because people are like, a lot of sheep will see what they should be thinking about this video. Okay, this is the feedback that has the most likes. This is how I'm going to perceive this video, and then I'm going to comment on top of that video. And you can almost even control the psychology by deleting those comments, leaving some of the positive stuff or some of the ways you want the video to be perceived.
Yeah.
And then that's now the way that the video starts trending as far as the takeaway. So it's funny, but yeah, so you really get to see like the human psyche in action when you have like all these people talking to you once every single day.
Was there ever a point in your life where you wanted to see the downfall of some people?
Um, I'm human, so the downfall. It means I don't know what you mean by the downfall. The only people like that actively am. I think there's something that's sort of inside me that's like that was deserved. You had that
Yeah.
coming. Is when a creator, an influencer builds their whole brand, and their whole shtick is canceling and trying to have the downfall of other people.
Hmm.
It's so funny because every single time it's almost inevitable that that audience that they've cultivated, that is there to watch people get canceled and watch people's downfall, they're secretly gonna be very happy when this person that they're watching right now has their downfall. And then they always have their downfall. Something comes out from years ago or whatever, and they're held to the standard that they were holding these other people that they were trying to cause a downfall for. And so when those people have their downfall, it's like, you deserved it. I don't feel bad. But that's probably it.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, this is something I've actually been thinking about recently, because there is definitely a time in my life, and listen, I'm only 25 years old, and I'm still, I think they say at 25, the human brain stops developing, right?
The
That's like
frontal the
at
frontal cortex.
yeah, at peak development. But there are definitely times in my life where I instead of cheering on for people, and not even, it doesn't even have to be directly, right? It could just be a passive, like, okay, I'm not going to say anything good, I'm not going to say anything bad, I wish them all the best. There was a point in my time where it was like, I did not wish you the best,
Right.
I wished you the
Right.
worst. And then that would be my focus, is like wishing that person the worst, which is such a wrong way to live
It really
life.
is, and I think a lot of that stems from, and I can speak from firsthand experiences, is if you're not happy with where you're at in life,
Yeah.
then those are the type of thoughts you have. But ever since like I've been extremely happy and I've seen success, I never have those thoughts. It's just I'm cheering on other people and I want to show other people how to do what I'm doing or whatever the case is. So I think a lot of times that stems from the person being deeply unhappy with themselves, and that's just a reflection of the way they feel.
Yeah, and I think, yes, I do think happiness is a factor, but I've actually recently been thinking confidence is the biggest factor because I think someone that lacks confidence puts that lack of confidence in a form of negative energy towards a person, and then it's
Hmm.
just like, okay, I'm going to be nasty, I'm going to be rude, and it really stems back to, yes, you're probably unhappy with yourself, but you're probably not confident with who you are, which leads me down the road of that person not even knowing who they actually want to be.
Right.
They're kind of lost. Their self identity is lost in who, what, when
Right.
type thing. So I think it's something interesting that I've been thinking about recently, because now when I see someone that I don't like, it's like, okay, I hope they're doing well. You know what I
Right.
mean? My life is great. I'm happy, like you said, and I hope they're doing well. But it's always something that's weird. Should we talk about what happened?
Yeah.
Speaking of wanting downfall,
We can, yeah, let's give an abbreviated version because
Break it
I
down.
think the full story is hard to follow along without visual footage and
But we'll
representation.
put a visual thing together, probably for social clips. I think Ben's gonna put a visual thing together. So
Okay.
why don't you start us off? Because I was not here.
You weren't here when it started.
Yeah. Oh, I was there when it ended.
Cameraman Ben was like 3 or 4 nights ago now. And I had my cousin over, and we were just hanging out, doing the cold plunge. This was about 11 o'clock at night, so pretty late. Doing the cold plunge, sauna, pool, just hanging out outside. I have like 8-foot gates around my entire property, so we're pretty secure here. My cousin was leaving for the night. Ben's car was blocking it in, so we had to open the gate, and I had to pull Ben's car out. And my cousin left. I pulled back in. The biggest mistake was leaving the keys in the car. Ben was in the cold plunge, so I was driving for him. I handled the parking for him, and the keys were in the car when I got in the car. So I just left them, and I just didn't even think about closing the gate because
He was about to leave.
Right, he was about to leave within 30 minutes, and so we went upstairs, just dried off, and we're just saying bye. And then walked downstairs.
We were on the phone together when it happened.
Yeah. Walked downstairs and his car's gone. Ben thought I was playing a joke on him. I couldn't believe it. And this is hindsight. We come to find out through some security footage from my neighbors that there was a white car parked out, a white Audi Q5
Yeah.
license plate number. I don't remember, but we had license plate number. It was just sitting outside my house, staking us out, waiting for the opportunity. And yeah, so they stole his car. And that kind of started a full night of adventure for us.
Yeah. I was I had tactical training. This happened on a Thursday night. I had tactical training on Friday morning. So I had ordered some new gear. I had specifically ordered some pants, a belt, and I happened to be trying those things on, which is the reason I didn't answer Ben's call. So I picked my phone back up after I had all my tactical stuff on, and I looked at 2 missed calls from Ben, which is very unusual. Usually it's 1 missed call, and when there's 2, I know something's wrong. And then 2 text messages, and I clicked on the text, and it said, "My car is gone," was one text, and then the next text said, "All of our podcast gear was inside."
That's all Ben cared about. He didn't even care about the car. He was just concerned about the hard drive with all of the episodes and stuff on it. So that was what like the main motivating factor to find the car was.
Yeah.
And
I tried calling him, and he didn't answer. So I sat there, I think, for probably like 5-10 minutes. And honestly, if Olivia was here, my girlfriend right now, she would tell you that I was almost crying because I was just like 10 episodes of 7 months of work just gone because some
Right.
bastard steals a car. I was just sad, honestly. And so I looked down. I will not forget. I was sitting in my bar stool. I looked down. I was like, I'm in tactical pants. Let's go.
Yeah, you live an hour away, and by the time the police left, you were like 10 minutes away from the house already.
Yeah.
Ben was like, "Mav's almost here." And I was like, "What? How?" So you have pretty good response time if anyone has an emergency. But yeah, the police came. They fought. They took the report down. Fortunately, Ben had his MacBook in the car, or unfortunately, but for this case, there was
Fortunately, yeah.
a silver lining that we used Find My iPhone to ping a location. Um, this is where the story gets a little complex. So, um, we drove around the neighborhood just to take a lap, just to see if they would be back because they stole Ben's car, and there was a lot of other cars. I have a lot of other cars in the parking lot that I think they would be interested in. And so we were just wondering if there was any suspicious activity going on, if they were like casing us again. And we found a car that was very suspicious, and we ended up chasing it out the neighborhood. You got the license plate number,
Yeah.
and we reported that to the police. They said there really wasn't much they can do with it. Then we loaded up and we followed the AirTag to the parking lot. There was one car in the parking lot, a white Mustang, which also was stolen, and it had the license plate of a stolen Audi, which was the car that we were chasing. And a lot of Ben's stuff was in that stolen car, so we recovered his stuff. They found Ben's car also, and
So that's 3 stolen cars one night.
right,
2 recovered.
right,
Mustang recovered that we found
right.
and informed the police that this car was stolen.
Unfortunately, we haven't caught the perps yet,
Yeah.
but we're working on it.
We are working on it. But I think that goes to show you, number one, if something is important to you, don't stop until you get it. Like
Yeah.
that is the one thing. I honestly never had a doubt inside of me that we were not gonna find that stuff.
Yeah,
I really didn't.
I even told Ben, I was like, we're gonna find your car, don't worry.
Yeah.
But also, who knows how that night plays out if we would have just hung out at the house and said, all right, hopefully they handle it.
Yeah.
But we kind of took some of it into our own hands. Also, didn't mention, I have like 6 security cameras around my property, and none of it was captured on camera. We didn't know why. And then we found out that they were using a wireless scrambler to kill the signal of any wireless camera. So my neighbors, we were scrubbing through their footage that runs 24/7, and there's a 3-minute gap. And in that 3 minutes, it just cuts from Ben's car there to Ben's car not being there, and as well as the white car that was staking us out. That car was gone also. So they were pretty advanced. They were professionals. They knew what they were doing. But yeah,
Yeah, stolen cars in South Florida is crazy, but shout out to all the local police departments because they really
Yeah, no,
do their
Fort
best.
Lauderdale Police Department, they were so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even after the fact, like I was telling you, I was talking with the police yesterday that was hanging out in front of my house, just doing some surveillance, and
You actually can't see this right now, but he just pulled back up in front of
Did
your
he?
house. Yeah, so
yeah, he hangs out in front of my house. He always does, and that night he was there till 9 p.m. And then he decided to, he did something else. He had to go watch like a pawn shop, he said, and that those people who were staking the house out saw that, and that's when they sprung. But I'm just happy. I mean, the real reason is like because we were chasing down his MacBook and like his AirPods and some, the hard drives, and it's like even we were putting ourselves in danger to a degree. We
Yeah.
were in the sketchiest neighborhood in Fort Lauderdale.
yeah.
With our flashlights looking for this with my truck, and so like I had to like do a little reflecting, like why is this worth what could happen right now? And it was more of it was so premeditated. They were sitting there waiting for us. It could have been so much worse. They could have did a home invasion. Like me and Ben are in bathing suits, having a good time, just laughing, telling jokes, and they could have ran up in my compound. You call this the compound because there was a vulnerability. They could have ran up and made us give over all the car keys, took the watches, whatever they wanted to take, they could have took. So it was a little personal also. And
Yeah. And I think too, right? For me, number one, we have such a strong friendship. The 3 of us do. And I think you knew how hard we had been working on this project
Right.
specifically. And it's just so everyone knows, it's a total coincidence that we're recording today.
Yeah,
We're
this
not
was planned like months.
Yeah. This was literally planned I think maybe 3 months ago. And it just happened to be a couple days before we were shooting, no pun intended, this podcast that that this all transpired and happened. But a couple things I'll say here because I've been thinking about what I wanted to say when we came on and did this. Number one, you need to always proceed with caution in what you do in life. And the decision we made to go there, some people might say that's stupid. You're putting your life in danger. We were very aware of our surroundings and very aware we weren't looking for a confrontation. We
Right.
weren't looking to take down bad guys.
Right.
We were looking to retrieve the months and years of hard work that's been put into this project. Ben, unfortunately, while we did get the podcast drive, the people that stole the car, they threw 5 drives, Ben? 5 other drives of his previous work.
Yeah, lots of unseen Brody YouTube videos you guys will never get to see now. Ride to Revive. We did a charity event for some kids and some supercars. That's gone.
The McLaren event.
Yeah. Oh, we had a lot of cool content that like we were just kind of sitting on for the right time, and now that's all gone, unfortunately.
Yeah, but no, it was a crazy experience. And if someone is taking something from you, and I think this has to do with a lot of the younger generation, stick up for yourself.
Yeah.
Right? This is a big instance and a big situation to use that analogy for, but I think it has the same message where if someone is picking on you, stick up for yourself. Go down as a fighter, go down as someone who stands for something rather than just gets walked all over, because there is value in going down as a fighter or just leaving it alone. Like, I didn't have to come here that night. We could have let the police handle that, and as we said, the police were great. Would they have found the stuff that... So basically, when they stole the car, they knew the car, and this is after talking to the police, I'm going to use the word hot. The car, Ben's car that was stolen, was quote unquote hot to them because now they were actively looking for the car in real time. So they took the valuables from Ben's car and put them in a different stolen car that was not quote unquote hot.
Right.
And we found the valuables just searching using Find My iPhone and it pinging to it. But you can't expect and I think this applies in all areas in life, but you can't expect your future to be determined by fate completely. There is an aspect to fate working, and if you want to bring in religious factors, sure, go ahead. But you need to go out and get what you want.
100%.
And that was like my one thing for that is like, I think I left the house at 11:30, maybe earlier than that, 11:30 p.m., Thursday night, and I did not walk back inside the door to my place until 11, I think 40 or maybe earlier, 10:30, somewhere around that time frame, a.m.
the next day.
Friday morning. And it was such a wild experience to have that happen, but also so rewarding to find it.
No, I agree. And I think what you were just saying with that personality trait, it transcends like just that specific instance or whatever. It just is like kind of a theme of someone's life. If like you're more of a fighter or if you're just going to sit there and let life happen to you.
Yeah.
I have so many friends that just they let life happen to them.
Yeah.
They're not happy with their relationship. They're not happy with their job. They're not happy with the path that they are. And now I'm 34. They weren't happy when they were 25, and all this time has passed by and they're in the exact same spot. They say the exact same things and they haven't done a damn thing to change it. So it's like, it's 100% on them. So like, I don't even feel bad for some of these people. It's just like, this is on you. You're allowing this to happen. Obviously everyone has different circumstances, and a lot of things that happen in life are luck based. You were prepared for the right opportunity. You can call it luck, or you can call it being prepared for to take advantage of the right opportunity. And I don't know. And so like, it's if you're just one of those people that like always say you're going to do something, I don't know, this podcast is taking a turn, but if you're just saying you're going to do something and then you never actually act on it, you'll never know like what could have actually happened. Like you never know. Like,
yeah,
when I was an accountant, I was just, and no offense to any accountants, if you love your job, more power to you. I was extremely jealous of you at one point in my life because I tried so hard to find the joy that some accountants are able to find within their career and the satisfaction and the fulfillment. I couldn't find that, and I was always so unhappy, and I wanted to change that. And before this, like before social media, I tried 4 other things. I resigned from my job to start South Florida's first outdoor dog park. That was a bar also serving gourmet coffee, wine, and that didn't work out. That fell through. So then I was kind of, lost, just trying to see where else I got conditional offer of employment from the CIA, and I did the psych exam and 3 polygraphs in Dulles, Virginia,
I
looking for that
forgot you
path.
did that.
Yeah, that was crazy. That's a whole nother story. The lie detector. It's a straight up interrogation. It's not an interview. And the psych eval and the medical. So just because I knew I wasn't happy with where I was just trying to find something and and this is all before Brody was born, just trying to find something that was fulfilling, and I wasn't going to stop until I finally found something. So yeah, that personality trait I think is like, it's a huge proponent of like whether or not someone can be successful. Like,
Yeah.
do you let life happen to you, or do you like kind of dictate
Control.
what's
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
happen?
I think there's so many places that can be put into in someone's life. I always say people generally talk about success and their mind automatically goes to financial success, right?
Hmm.
I think there's so many more areas of life,
Yeah, no.
financial, emotional, physical, mental, that you can equate success to. And so taking control of a situation and not staying stagnant, if you're upset about something, and what I love about these conversations, but at the same time, what I hate about them is that there's so much BS online. Like there's
Yeah.
so much fake nonsense online, but delivers this message or echoes this message, whereas it kind of makes the message have a downgraded value,
Right.
right? A
No, I know what you mean.
depreciated value because it's pushed out there. But I think it's so important for people to understand that if you want to do something, you have to take the steps, the energy, the effort, the time to put together a plan to execute and do that. And that is one of the reasons that I created this method that I live my life by. And I'm becoming more vocal about it because every time I talk about it, people are like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." It's called Keys, Keys. If you were on a Zoom with me, you'll see in the background of my Zoom. Shout out to DJ Khaled. He made this artwork like it was like a limited release. And it's literally like a big key and it has the word success on the end, like where the design of the key would be. But keys to me stands for keep earning your stay. And if you want to get somewhere or you are somewhere and you want to continue to thrive and adapt, then you always need to be doing certain things. Always be positive, always be executing, always be a protector, always be a lover. And this is a running list that if I think of something, I add it onto that list of always be, because implementing those things into your life are literally, no pun intended, the key of how to get to the next place. And I'm not saying, I think this is an important part, and this is where I go back to all the BS online. I'm not saying that doing these things equates to success, but they can get you there.
Yeah.
Right? You may do the same thing 100 times or may have a great plan and it fails, but that is life. And I think for you, something that I see probably from a perception standpoint, it's like everything Cliff does or Brody does, if they touch it, it's gold. Would you say that's true? Or would you say that there's things that have turned to complete shit? Are you either deleted or just hasn't performed the way you
No,
want it
yeah,
to?
there's lots of things Cliff has touched that did not turn to gold. Like I said, I before, and and now I could look back and say timing wasn't right, but I was really passionate. It was called Bark Bar. Now there's a few of this style bar out there, but I was passionate about trying to start a dog friendly outdoor dog park that serve whatever drinks for the in a kind of like a club
Yeah.
membership style revenue model. But I had a 35-page business plan, and I didn't have a lot of money to start it. And it was the day of I was going to sign the lease. And I just kind of thought back then that you sign a lease, but you have an LLC. If everything goes bad, you just walk away from it. But no, you have to personally guarantee it.
Yep.
And at that time, it was like, I think the lease was like for $120,000 or $130,000, which was just like more money than I could even conceptualize at a time of being on the line for. So I got scared and I didn't go through with it. Now looking back, how ironic is it that I have a huge platform of dog lovers, and if that was a business venture that I decided to go down, look at the position I'm in now to
Right.
promote that and have that be success, versus then when I literally Brody wasn't born, I had 400 followers, and you know, that would have been a struggle for a brick and mortar business pre-COVID. So
Yeah.
that would have even been, you know, we would have been out of business for sure. But yeah, so there's definitely I mean, and then having those failures, or like having, and okay, let me just uh break the fourth wall real quick. I would say in 2016, if I would have heard some of the stuff we're saying, I probably would have found it cringe. Anything that's like mindset, grind set, motivation, work through it, work hard, blah blah, all that stuff, like it was an instant swipe for me. I was like, bro, I do not want to hear this. And a lot of times it's the messenger also, like you said,
Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
message is
yeah.
good, but it's just where it's coming from is not. I see why people are turned off by it. But just that outlook is something that I sort of had to learn, and I saw it work. And you can call it whatever you want. Like we're calling it with these more like business key metric terms, but and just like a mindset. But some people, you know, some religious people call it prayer and they truly believe something, and some other people who I used to think were crazy were all about energy and sound waves and stuff like that. But like all of it is almost aligned. Like if you put good energy out there, good things happen. If you train your mind to think one way, your mind thinks another, and like you can do all these things with like different terminology,
Yeah,
but you're
yeah.
actually all doing the same thing. And so it works from 100 different angles. So I'm just saying, if you heard that and you think it's cringe, take it in a way that maybe makes more sense to you. Some of the ways I just listed, maybe, but and it's not something everyone's born with. I wasn't like born with it. Honestly, I kind of learned it, and like I trained myself and I saw the results and I said, this is what works. And I kind of adapted to it. But back to like the failures and stuff, there's gonna be like 100 failures. And when you have one failure, I think the hardest part is having constant failures and not having that success yet, and that's when you start doubting everything. But you can have like 4 failures or 10 failures, and you have one thing that just really works. Then everything else that you're moving forward, you're not afraid of that anymore.
Yeah.
So anytime, like, so Bark Bar, that, you know, that was it failed. And there's a few other things that just failed along the way. But then I started social media with Brody, and I really built a community and a brand around what we were doing, and, you know, considered one of the most successful in that category. That one success then like turned my mindset into, I'm not afraid of failure. Like I'll do whatever, and if it
Yeah.
flops, it flops. Whatever, on to the next thing. Like that doesn't bother me anymore. But to get there, I feel like to really believe in yourself like that, I feel like you do have to hit one of those successes just to know it's possible, and then it's really easy to switch your mindset.
Yeah, no, I everything you just said, bro, it could not be more true. And I'm with you, right? I actually, because this is what I do now and have been doing this for a while, I look at those videos of there's people out there. I wake up,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a funny one my brother and I joke about. But I think it was Andrew Tate who was just messing around. But he's like, I go to bed at 7 o'clock and I wake up at 6:59. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But there is truth in everything you are saying, and to me, it goes back to manifesting the life you want. And when people hear manifestation, I think some people are turned off by that. But manifestation is your imagination. It's allowing your imagination to foresee you in the future. This is my personal opinion. And if you cannot foresee yourself in a certain position in the future, then you will never be able to attain whatever it is you're wanting. You need to see yourself there, present. Think about what it would look like around you. Think about the people that would be around you, because now you are telling yourself, okay, this is what it will be like maybe when I'm there. Maybe it's something different. Maybe it's worse. Maybe it's better. But at least you're envisioning that. So you have something. To me, it's kind of something that is like the cheese in front of the treadmill. You know what I mean? You're just going to that one goal consistently and patiently and just trying to get there. And you may never get it. Or you may get it and you're like, I don't like this cheese, and you toss it out and you're like, okay, now I know what I like and what I don't like. But you need to be able to see it. And I think there are so many daily habits and routines that people are unwilling to do to get to whatever outcome they want. And that's where in the short form you talk about, you wake up every day and you edit for 5-6 hours a day, people might be like, I don't want to edit, right? Oh, I don't want to do that, or I don't know how to do that. Well, you're not a videographer. You didn't come from that background. You
Right.
taught yourself, right? You have the rigorous discipline that it takes to get from point A to point Z in this scenario. What would you say is the number one question you get in terms of this topic? Like, how do I get my dog to go viral or get famous? Or what is that number one question you always get?
Well, just going back to what you just said, was like editing for 4 to 6 hours a day. Like, I don't particularly like. I was never like, I want to be a video editor when I grow up, and like that was never. I used to make YouTube videos back in high school, and but it's part of the smaller picture for like the larger mission. So I know what I'm doing. I have my goals set. I know what I want to do. I want to have online presence. I want to spread I want to show Brody's magic to as many people as I can. And to do that, in order to do that, these videos have to be made. Yes, I can outsource it, but it almost becomes like enjoyable because it's part of the process. And I know this might sound cringe, but it's just like these small tasks, if you're assigned them and you don't have the bigger picture. So if you work at a company, if you're doing a 9 to 5 job and you're playing one small role, it's so hard to invest yourself in that role because you don't see how it plays into the bigger picture of the company's success. But when it's something that you're completely in charge of and you know what you're trying to do, those small roles that would usually be meticulous and annoying to do, like you're willing to invest yourself and make sure it's done right and work at it. But yeah, so a lot of people want to make their dog famous. That's, it's always the middle-aged woman walking her dog. It sees me, it's like, oh, that's Brody. It's like, I know if I would have just posted my dog, or if I just post my dog, they'll become famous also. And it's like, yeah, okay. There's a lot more to it than that. The consistency that's required is a full-time job, which is why it is a full-time job for me.
Yeah. One thing I want to pull out of what you said, because I think this is very important for me to deliver this message in a concise way, but also for you to understand too. I think the reason we think these things are cringe is because people are saying these things in the context of, if you do these things, you will be successful.
Right.
And I want the message here to be very clear that me, and I don't know if I'm speaking for you in this, I'm sure I probably am, doing these things does not make you successful and will not be an ultimate hack or trick.
No, it just sets you up for success.
Exactly. It puts you in the position to possibly obtain that success. It gives you that, even if it's a slight percentage chance higher, to obtain the success that you want. But going back to, that's the first message I want to put out. And I think if people could just say like, hey, I'm not saying if you make your bed every morning or if you go in the cold plunge every morning, you're going to be successful. What I am saying is positive daily habits reinforce your ability to be disciplined, and being disciplined increases your chances to become successful. Again, however you measure success, some people may not care about financial success. They may want to be successful physically and mentally, so they go to the gym every day. They have a routine. And so I think it's so important for people to understand that what Cliff and I are sitting here talking about, we're not saying you do these things and you get success. We're saying you do these things and you have that much of a slightly higher chance to get the success.
Right.
What has been the one thing for you that changed the way you look at life, whether it's related to Brody and Luna and what you've built, or whether it's something that happened when you were a child?
So there's a couple of things, but like just going back to 2016 Cliff, like I would have heard a lot of things that I've said or you said, and I would have perceived it as like cringe or like this is not real. And so I'm speaking now from a completely different viewpoint than when I used to have, and it's something I've learned and I've grown with. But I just want to keep talking about that because I know the goal here is to help people weed out the BS versus what's better online. And it's a lot easier to do for people who've experienced success, and it's just so transparent when you see something online. You're like, we know what's going on here. This is BS.
Right.
But for people who haven't and people who are a lot younger, it's a lot harder to be able to decipher what's real, what's not with social media, and what someone's true intentions are. There's always an ulterior motive on social media. So just a good filter for if you're not sure if what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're being told and sold is legitimate. You go into their bio, and if they're selling you a course, I would say 9 times out of 10, that person's words are carrying very little weight. They are incentivized to sell a lifestyle or sell an image that is probably not true, and it's it's for the goal of sales, which is what is providing the success. But other than that, that's why I said 9 out of 10 people.
Yeah.
And it's more about, and like what you're doing here is you're inquiring and you're trying to learn and you're trying to educate the audience. You're not. I'm specifically speaking about people who are driving the Lambo in front of the rented mansion, and they're telling you, at 22 years old, you'll be able to make 8 figures just by doing whatever. And it's almost always just BS. It's just they're not even generating revenue from what they claim they got rich from. They're generating revenue from selling people a dream, selling the courses.
Yeah.
And so that's just, and I've known people that have done that, and it can be very lucrative, but you're lying essentially.
Yeah, and I think we can point out a good example that we can shed some light to, because I know we've actually run into him at parties in Miami together, but Tom Cruise, who does the Section 8 course.
Yeah.
I spent the money the first time and probably only time, I'll say only time for now, maybe that changes, that I've spent money on a course, but there is a tremendous amount of value.
It's funny because what I'm saying, I was actually thinking of him, but as one of the 1 out of 10, like, I can't personally verify, but like when I see it, I'm like, okay, this actually has legitimate weight.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing wrong. Money is not inherently evil. There's nothing wrong with streams of revenue, and there's nothing wrong with capitalizing on the community that you built. And you can be beneficial to them and also benefit from it. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that, but it's just people who lie and pretend and have a fake persona. But if you're providing value and if you're actually showing people how to generate revenue or whatever, then I'm all for that, and I think that's great. And I think traditional schooling is cooked. It's done. Like it's like,
I agree with you.
Almost every 4-year degree that you can invest in right now is not going to have the ROI for what you're paying for tuition. Versus like all the opportunities in the creator economy and online and what you can do, straight out of high school if you start getting to work.
This is a good question actually for you, because you're someone that's done it. You went to graduate school, right? What'd you get?
So undergrad, I went to University of Central Florida. I got my accounting degree, and then I went to University of Miami for my master's in business administration, my MBA. Shout out you. And my concentration was in finance and management.
Okay, so this is something that I can't be the person to say this, but I've always felt like those graduate programs are, I'll use the word interesting, because for me, I think you need to be put in the real life situations to learn anything, right? You can sit in a classroom and you can learn the concepts, but are the concepts even absorbed if you're not actually in the nitty grittiness of whatever it is, whatever business problem, whatever expansion project you're working on? Do you think that there is a value in a graduate program like that? Or do you think that it's better to go and start a business, take that money, start a business, and actually learn the day-to-day operational challenges of a business?
So there's value, but is the value equal to what tuition is these days?
Yeah.
And especially where you are. So I get this question all the time. Like the younger guys, they'll see my cars and stuff, and
I love your car. What do you do for a living?
Right. And I just graduated high school. I'm trying to decide if I should go to college or I want to be an online creator. What's the path I should take? It's always situational. If you're coming out of pocket and You don't have the advantage of one, a scholarship, or two, financial assistance with like from your parents who are insistent that you go to college. If you have that opportunity, I say take that opportunity. It's
Yeah.
different when you have to pay for it out of pocket. You really need to analyze whether or not the ROI is going to be there. If you're going for, I don't want to offend anyone with any major, but let's just say, okay, I'll say psychology, a psychology major. You're not,
Shout out, Ben.
yeah, man, you're not.
Oh, sorry,
I'm using it every day.
It's going to be very hard to get the ROI on that degree. STEM field, perhaps, yes. Even computer science 4 years ago, that was like locked in,
Yeah.
best, lucrative, do this. And now AI is wiping some of those jobs away. So that's not even locked in. And then, an accounting degree, that job is always going to be there. That's a pretty steady field. But other than that, you really need to decide whether or not that's the right choice. Grad school specifically, it's very career dependent. I was one of the few people that went straight out of undergrad into grad school. Usually for an MBA program, they want like 3 to 5 years work experience. They want that real life experience because they know that that's true. And then you can kind of start applying the curriculum you're learning to the situations you've already lived. Otherwise, it's all just imaginary scenarios, and you're not going to gain anything from it. But the real world is the best. So I was at an event. Big Brothers Big Sisters Miami back to school event. One of the parents walked away, and I was talking to the kid, and I don't even remember how it came up, but I was explaining like, listen, the stuff that you're learning in school, it seems irrelevant, and a lot of it is irrelevant. The curriculum is irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about what you're learning. When have you ever used Pythagorean theorem? Unless you're an engineer, but a lot of it's irrelevant, but it teaches you how to think critically. So what you're learning isn't that important, and honestly, you probably will never use again. But developing the muscles in your brain to be able to problem solve, to critically think, to see a problem, assess it, and then come up with a solution, that stuff is what school is most valuable for. In college, also, I would say the personal skills that you develop,
social skills.
I
was going to say,
that's
for me,
probably the most valuable thing that you get from a undergrad.
There are so many people that I know, or families that I know, that have kids that went to Stanford, University of Michigan, Northwestern, all these amazing schools, and cannot find a job when they graduate. And when you study, because now I've gotten my curiosity has turned on to those people, and when you study those people, 7 out of 10 times, those people have zero social skills. Right? You feel awkward talking to them. It's one of those situations where it's like, wow, I'm not an awkward person, but speaking to you, I feel awkward. And I think that, to me, is the biggest indicator that school, whatever school you go to, whatever undergrad, graduate program you're a part of, absolutely does not equate to success. Ben, can you search up the statistic of the most billionaire, with the amount of billionaires, did most of them go to college or graduate programs? Because I feel like I saw statistics somewhere that they did not.
I feel like millionaires would be better to go. Billionaires, there's so much inherited wealth a lot of times, and it's just, the family's going to get them into.
Yeah. Okay, go millionaires then. But no, I think everything that we're talking about, again, as cliche as it sounds, it rings so true. So true. But has there been any aspect to your... Go ahead.
Yeah, 62%, 2/3 of millionaires graduated from public state schools, while only 8% went to a prestigious private school. But it says the bulk of them did get at least a graduate degree, so 2/3.
But this is all very new, like because there was
There's a social shift.
Yeah, so even you're too young, honestly. You're 25, right?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm 34, and so the millennial generation. Are you Gen Z then?
What we did this last time, Ben. What am I? Gen Z, right?
I think that's Gen Z. Yeah, I'm almost positive.
I'm on the cusp, right?
We're in between. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so the older millennials were sold this playbook. This was not to even be questioned. You were an outlaw if you questioned it, but it's, you go to school, you get your degree, you get a job, and you're good. Like that's the method. And so
Put money in your 401k.
yeah, and that you'll be set for life. That don't get me started on that. But so that was the playbook that I was sold, and that everyone in my age was sold, and it really shifted while we're in school. That wasn't the playbook. Degrees started becoming less valuable. Jobs were not really paying what you're investing into the degree, and then all the social media creator economy is blowing up, and the opportunity there is 10 times more lucrative than what some of these traditional jobs are offering. And so yeah, I think it really switched up over the last 10 years. And now you ask what a kid wants to be when they grow up, and I all the time little kids come up to me and they say they want to be a YouTuber. When I was
Yeah.
Brody, I think you're in front of the camera. Come here, buddy. When I was younger, kids would say actor, singer, athlete, and now all the kids want to be a YouTuber. That is their Hollywood. That is what the mainstream acting was to my generation.
Right.
And it's actually very attainable. It's like it's something that they could do. So yeah, it's all dependent on your situation and how much risk you're willing to take. When I quit my job, so when I was an accountant for 6 years, I made a decision and I knew I was taking a risk, but it was a mitigated risk. I was like, this is how much money I'm making right now. I had a mortgage. This is how much my mortgage is, which I had a roommate for to help me with my mortgage. And if I quit this job, how much money am I going to need to take? Do I see a pathway to generating this revenue within the first year? And my number was $30,000. I said, if I quit my job and I can make $30,000 online, then I would consider this a success. Like I would consider that this is a metric where there's a pathway to even more revenue in the future. That was the number I used. I beat that number my first year. And but my point is that it was.
And now you won't even do a brand deal for 30,000.
and now, yeah, 30,000 for a video is on the lower end. I'm kidding, but not really.
Come right.
But it's just about taking calculated risks. So you have to assess your situation, and you have to do multiple things at once. You just can't just start doing this and go all in without like testing the waters, being consistent first, seeing a pathway to success, and then taking a calculated risk of, all right, now I'm going to leave my 9 to 5 and pursue this. That's personally the way I would do it.
Yeah. And the thing I was going to ask you was, what was a pivotal time in your life, whether it was a decision, whether it was a situation that happened that caused you to change into a different version of yourself? But before you answer that, we're going to throw in an ad here. Let's talk about something that could change the way you handle your money. Imagine a world where your bank account is as fortified as an armored truck. Welcome to the Brinks Armored Account, the last debit card you'll ever need. With at least one monthly deposit of $500 or more, you can say goodbye to monthly fees and hello to money management that pays you back. With the Brinks Armored Account, you get cash back on your purchases, access to over 100,000 ATMs with one free withdrawal per month, and an optional overdraft service that respects your boundaries. But that's not all. Brinks takes security as seriously as you do. Enjoy peace of mind with ID theft protection and purchase assurance, guarding your transactions and new purchases against damage or theft. It's not just an account, it's an armor for your finances. Qualify for early direct deposit, and you can receive your paycheck or government benefits up to 2 days faster. It's your money. Why would you wait? Step into the future of financial confidence with the Brinks Armored account. Visit brinksarmored.com to learn more or connect with Brinks Armored on social media. Brinks Armored account. It's not just safe, it's Brinks safe. But the question I left off on was, what was a pivotal time in your life, a decision, a moment that something happened where it changed Cliff?
2020 is when we started creating content. We were posting once to twice every single day. And the life of like the online persona stuff and my online presence started to bleed into my professional life. And it wasn't a secret anymore. Barstool Sports was posting Brody like once every 2 weeks on something, and so people in my office were like, hey, I saw you, so and so. And it started to affect, I can't lie, it did start to affect my work because I was putting all my effort towards online presence and my social platforms. And my boss took notice. She called me, I'd be in the office and I can knock out my work like in an hour, and then I use the rest of the day to just edit. And she called me in the office, was sitting behind her desk, and she said, at the time I won't even say where, but I was in the finance field, and I was a budget analyst. And she asked, "Do you like this? Like I don't see like you putting in like the effort. Like your videos are great, they're super creative, but like, do you want to be here?" Like pointing to where she was sitting behind her corner office desk. And because I had the pathway, if I wanted to take over for her job, I would have been next in line. I could have done it and been the manager, the city of Boca manager. Um, and I had no benefit looking back to say no. Like as a good employee, just like protecting myself, I should have said yeah. But it was just that moment. I was dealt with an ultimatum, and I just said no. Honestly, no. And I put my 2 weeks notice in, and that's when I pursued content creation. That's when I started pursuing content creation full time. So that was a pretty pivotal moment.
What was her reaction?
I think she was shocked. They had a lot of projects they still needed me on, and so she's like, "Okay, well, can you?" She's like, "I won't say anything." Oh, damn! I don't know if I don't want to get her in trouble. Um, but she's like, "We can keep this like hush, and I'll just stuff I really need help with. You'll be working from home 24/7." That's right when the pandemic started happening, and she's like, "We'll start a plan, but I still really need help with so and so projects. Can you still stay on for like a month or so to sort of phase out?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, that's no problem." But she was really cool. She was very. She really helped like give me the freedom to sort of like, because Luna had Brody was born when I was working there, so Luna had a litter of puppies, and I was working my 9 to 5, so I'd have to rush back to my house like on my lunch break to make sure all the puppies were good and Luna was good, and baby Brody was good. And so I was working there when all that happened, and she was very nice with me, to like very accommodating. So she was great for that. But then, yeah, Brody grew up to be famous, and we were faced with that ultimatum. And
Here
yeah,
you are.
here he
Here
is.
you are on the best of the best. I always say, is there a dog more famous than Brody? Honestly.
It depends on how you look at it, like what you're judging that. Like I always say, I don't think there's any dog that gets recognized more out in public, and a lot of that has to do with just how recognizable he is, the way
Yeah.
he looks. I don't think there's there's people who have more followers and more engagement, but if me and Brody go somewhere, and any other dog and their owner goes somewhere, I don't think anyone gets more pictures and signs more autographs
Yeah.
than Brody does anywhere.
Is there a moment that you have never shared publicly online anywhere between you and Brody that sticks in your head as the moment?
Um, the moment. I mean, we've done so much together. Like we've seen so many cool things. We've been to so many cool events. We've shared so many memories. But like,
What about something in private is more
right,
so what I'm asking.
the stuff that like people don't see is just like it's just normal things that they'll experience with their own dog as well. But just Brody riding around in the car with me, and I just got some Chick-fil-A, and I sneak him a French fry, and he's just sitting there happy, just enjoying the day. Things that you don't make content out of because it's not that entertaining, but it's just like that day-to-day bond that's just like your best friend, and everyone can experience it themselves with their own dog, and I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, those type of moments are, I'll cherish those for sure.
Now let's talk about Floof by Brody. You got the hat. You're a
Yeah.
walking billboard right now. You got the hat, got the shirt. Where did this idea come from? Tell everyone about it. Tell them where they can get it. Use this as the time to plug Floof.
Yeah, so as you can see, this is quite the masterpiece, this coat. And creating content for so many years, something that was always consistently asked, especially by other dog owners with breeds that have long coats like this, is how do you maintain this? How do you keep your dog's coat like this? So it was kind of perfectly aligned with our brand to help people maintain and give the best products to help maintain.
Yeah.
So we started Floof by Brody, which is a grooming line. We have the Brody brush, which is a long pin slicker brush, which is a double entendre because his last name is Brush. So Brody Brush is his name, and it's also a brush.
Wow, I never even thought of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And then so Floof Juice is a leave-in conditioner, which works miracles. I'll use that every day on him. And you got some shampoo and conditioner and a lot of other things planned in the works right now. We actually are very close to having his daily multivitamin done, a chewable that we're really happy with, and some other brushes and stuff that will be coming soon. But yeah, it was just so perfectly aligned with what we do and what we use every single day that, I was tired of reaching out to brands trying to work with the grooming line. That the grooming industry typically is pretty archaic in as far as the way that they handle marketing, and I just couldn't find the right partner that also had the right products I wanted. So what better way to do it ourselves? So we did everything from the beginning. I was sitting there with test tube samples, picking out the scent, and the Floof Juice scent everybody loves, and I was so nervous, like my palate wouldn't be the same for other people. So it's been great, and it's something that can help build Brody's brand legacy to live on for a very long time. So yeah, so
What's the website?
floofbybrody.com.
Floofbybrody.com. How'd you come up with floof?
Floof is kind of like an internet term, like doggo, like very millennial core. But when you see a big dog that's fluffy, you say, well, that's a floof. And so after getting that comment millions of times over the years, it just felt like the right brand name. And also it helps you floof your dog and fluff it. So
I need to get some for the girls. I still
you
never
don't have any?
we never got
You never
the box.
got the box?
Never.
Really?
Yeah, never.
Okay.
We need to get some. But no, I think again, as your friend, it's so cool to see everything that you've built. I'm proud of you as well.
Thank you.
To see what you've built too, because it's really, really cool. Like, and I'll sometimes just catch myself in passing, be like, "Oh yeah, we went to this thing with Brody and like Brody and Cliff," and then I'll be like, people are like, "Wait, Brody, like Brody the dog?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And people get so wild. Like my sister-in-law loves Brody, literally, always like, "Oh, are you with
That's
Brody?"
My new roommate and his girlfriend are obsessed. They couldn't believe it.
That about Brody.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I
awesome.
mean, it's dogs are. I never grew up. I should say I had a split household. My parents were divorced. In my mom's house, we had a dog, but I didn't have that emotional connection with the dogs there, really. And at my dad's house, they never had a dog there. So, I adopted my first dog when I was in college, and I hid it from my family. Literally, the way someone found out, or the way my family found out about it, was I was at dinner with my dad. Because at this time, like my parents were not on social media at all, and so I was sitting at dinner, and someone came up and was like, "Oh my God, like your new dog is so cute." And then my dad's jaw literally dropped. He was like, "Dog, what?
Busted.
You got a dog?" And then COVID happened, and I moved in with my dad and my stepmom, and we all moved in together. And then they ended up falling in love with that dog so much because the time that I had it and the time that we were together during COVID, we were together way longer during COVID than the time I had gotten her. And so when it was time for me to move out of the house and move in Florida to a new place that I got, they're basically like, yeah, this is our dog now. Which was a very hard thing for me to do, to say like, okay, Chanel is going to live here, but I knew that my family would never get another dog ever. And they still haven't. I don't think they really ever will because Chanel was so special. But being able to have a dog in your life, as silly as it may sound, I think is something that is so grounding. And I actually saw this earlier today. I forget who posted it. Maybe it was our friend David Walkler, who's a jeweler in Michigan. But dogs are here to show us that love and compassion doesn't need to be, and loyalty doesn't need to be vocalized. There's no language that verbally needs to be spoken, right? It's physical, as you can see this situation right here. Like Brody is giving you love right now, as much as you're
Right.
giving love to Brody, and a sense of comfortability is there too. What do you think people's perception of animals in today's world is? Do you think it's by location? You travel all over, so I'm sure you get to see how different regions interact with dogs. What would you say to
I
that?
think the US is the best with pet culture as far as treating them like family as opposed to just an animal that's, you leave them in the backyard or whatever. So, and that's over the last 20 years or so, because even in the 90s, it wasn't like that. So that's really been something that's new. Um, and yeah, just developing that relationship with your best friend. I think that's something that it's harder to do when you're growing up with the dog and you just have your whole life in front of you. And even in college, it's like you have so much going on. Like you can't really just like really appreciate the
Yeah.
bond. And it's just once you really hit stride and for example, you start working and you're at a job that you might not like, and all you can think about is just getting back home to your dog. And then that's really when that, like, I think a relationship can really become like a relief, where you come home, you see them, and it's just like all the stress goes away.
Yeah.
And I think for so many people that's exactly what it is. It's just like the bright spot in their life. It represents everything that's good and is their comfort, and I totally get it.
Ben, while I ask this next question, I want you to look for some things. Can you look for I don't even know if this exists, Cliff. You'll have to tell us. Are there any negative responses in terms of people making videos about you and Brody? Like they clip it or stitch it together?
Then, yeah, of course. Yeah,
So, Ben,
yeah.
see if you can find some of those. And I want to just watch them together and get your reaction to them.
It's gonna be hard to pull up. Usually they don't do very well, so the SEO on them is not great. I had that one that I was just tagged in that did better, but I don't even want to give them any shine, honestly. I don't even want to like just I think better would be reading some of the comments. I think here I screenshot some of the comments from a video.
All right. Okay.
Let's
Perfect.
here, let's read a couple.
All right.
I
Which
s-
video is this, by the way?
just some random loser that made a video that was mad. Um,
Oh, this is a video. This is comments from their video.
from their video.
Okay.
So let's see.
Wait, can I watch it real quick? I just want to watch the video.
Okay, I have to find the video, but I had the
Oh,
screenshots.
you have to save screenshots. Okay, then just read the comments out.
And then I had some really good comments, and by really good I mean atrocious comments on like my latest children's hospital video. Did I show you those?
Yeah, that's
also?
what we were talking about the other night.
Yeah, it was
How
like
could someone say anything
someone
negative?
commented like 7 times in all capital letters, like all these wild things, like on a children's hospital video where it's like where Brody's just like doing the most adorable visits and just spreading joy to these kids who need it so much, and they thought that was the right time. Even if you disliked me or you disliked Brody or you disliked anything about us, like you just gotta pick and choose where you're gonna leave your hate. But this person didn't care. But here's some comments that I really liked. This would be funny to clip. Let's see.
This is like that SNL skit where they read the mean tweets. That is the SNL, right? I never watched it, but I
Yeah.
saw that skit.
So someone said he bred the bitches is the term for a female dog. So he bred one of the bitches, implying I had multiple female dogs. He bred one of the bitches 13 times, and she was only like 2 years old. So talking about Luna, they said I bred her 13 times, and she was only 2, which is biologically impossible considering female dogs only go into gestation twice a year, every 6 months. So assuming that she was able to be bred at 6 months old, which is impossible for a puppy, the max amount of litters she could have ever even had at that point would be 4 litters. But 13 times in 2 years, which is just an insane thing to say. Yeah, this is another comment, all capital letters. Yeah, he is. And he treats it like, oh, it's fine. I don't even remember what this is in reference to. He bred Brody to his own mother and many other puppies. That was another crazy thing that people kept saying, that I've bred
Bred them
Brody
together.
to Luna, which is just, it's like, I've seen that lie so many times where it's like, they say he even said that he bred Brody to his mom, and it's like, and so it adds like, they think it adds like validity to their
Right.
comment, which is just, it's just so insane. And so you don't even like get into that with them. Like, yeah, she's like, it's not a misinformation. He has come right out and said it. Um, as someone who's watched him as a kid, I think I would know Luna. Whatever, just
Watched him as a kid. These people are insane.
that they're probably like 15 years old and probably watched my videos from 3 or 4 years ago when they were a kid. They're still a kid, but um, okay, I wish I had better ones. That's all I had on standby. That was just the recent ones.
Oh,
But I've just seen the most insane
are
things
you are
about.
you are you to the point where I don't want to use the word numb because I think that's the wrong
Well,
word to
that's the right
use.
word. I am numb
That
to,
is,
yeah,
yeah, that is
like
the right word.
to online feedback from people, from strangers, or like if you're part of my community and like you're a follower and like I've
Mhm.
seen you before, or like think about where you're coming from is is honest and you're giving feedback in that way, 100%. I'm gonna take a lot of weight with that. But if it's just a video that went viral, or if it's like a mine, so it got pushed out to all the corners of the internet and you're just like a random faceless internet person like saying something negative, like it doesn't even make me like, I don't even like flinch. Like honestly, it entertains me more than like hurts me. Like nothing someone online can say like affects me in an impactful way at this point. And that's something that you just become numb to, like you said. So once you start creating content for so long, especially if you have lots of viral videos, because when you have the viral videos that are reaching the algorithm of people who don't follow you, is when you get the craziest
Yeah.
comments and the most insane things you'll see. So once you've done that for so long, then it's like numb is the right word. You become numb to it, and you're like, yeah, that doesn't bother me.
Has there ever been any comment or DM left that was constructive criticism that you read and you were like, okay, I see what they're saying. I see how I can do
Yeah,
better.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen things, and you can just tell, like you can tell when someone's coming from a genuine place of one, curiosity if they're asking a question, or two, if they're a place of concern. Like, I love Brody so much and I would never want to see anything happen to them, so please just take this into consideration moving forward, or something along those lines. And of course those are, I appreciate those, and I always put a lot of weight on those. But that's very different than like just some random hater that's making up lies or acting out of a place of jealousy.
More and more people are starting to become concerned about their plastic waste. That's why having a fun, refillable water bottle has become such a popular trend. So, let me introduce you to our official beverage sponsor of the Best podcast, Path, a sleek and completely recyclable aluminum water bottle that is also BPA free and refillable. Refilling your Path bottle not only reduces plastic waste, but also contribute to becoming carbon positive after only 4+ refills. Since 2015, Path has been on a mission to end single use plastic. It's not about drastic changes, it's about simple lifestyle switches. By educating people and encouraging them to hashtag refill it, Path shows that every refill counts in the fight against plastic waste. It's a small step that can make a huge difference. You can find Path in over 55,000 retail stores worldwide, including stores like Whole Foods, Target, CVS, Sprouts, and many more. Path is also present in airports, gyms, schools, and has extended its reach to travel, fitness, national parks, hospitality, and healthcare sectors. To learn more, visit drinkpath.com or follow them on Instagram at Pathwater. Now, let's jump back into the episode. All right, moving on to that. Let's talk about Luna. Let's talk about Luna. Luna is
Brody's
Brody's
mother.
mom. When did you get Luna? How long ago?
2017 um, was my first like dog that I had on my own, and she has her own cult following called the Lunatics.
Yep.
People love that she is the complete polar opposite of Brody. Brody wants to make me happy. He's such a good, innocent little boy. Luna is devious, manipulative, way too smart for her own good. Always plotting and planning on my downfall, and she wants to steal all the treats that she can and rip all the toys up. And she never listens when it's time to go inside. And people love watching that. And it honestly has been great because it used to really frustrate me that she wouldn't be obedient, and she has lots of professional training. But the fact now that so many other people can laugh at my expense, it eases the pain. Like, it's like, all right, you're being really bad, but let me pull my camera out and film you being bad, and then I'll post it, and then I won't, and then suddenly I'm not as mad anymore.
Yeah, of course. What about Brody and Luna's relationship? What is that like?
It's very friendly. It's slightly like mother son, but also like a lot of friendship elements. But Luna knows Brody is her son because she birthed him and she remembers him growing up. Brody, I don't know for sure that he knows that she's his mom. She's always just been around at the time he's been alive. But yeah, they get along amazing, and they both have very different elements. I love them both equally, even though some people online don't think I do. I love Luna just as much, but I just cater to what she likes. She doesn't like going in the backpack. She doesn't like traveling. She doesn't like doing these crazy adventures. Like, she much rather be at home with grandma in the swimming pool eating scrambled eggs, and that's what I do for her. If she loved coming along on our adventures, I would happily take her, but I've tried many, many times, and I do what's best for her.
Yeah, I've seen so many comments of people saying like, "Oh, where's Luna? Or why is Luna at home?" And it's like, if you actually knew Luna,
Right.
you
This is
wouldn't
what
be
she wants to
commenting.
do right here.
Yeah, she just wants to relax, get love, get food.
Right.
Making a pivot for a second, what is your favorite social media platform as a consumer?
It's changed. It used to be TikTok, but after TikTok Shop has just taken over the feed, and it's just nonstop ad and then a TikTok Shop promo, it's not as enjoyable. So I would definitely say IG Reels probably is my number one now, slightly above TikTok, but it's just because of TikTok Shop. I feel like has really, really hurt the user experience over there.
You've been able to oh, go ahead, Ben.
Tell us about your algorithm.
You've been able to take social media and turn it into a positive for yourself, being the serotonin dealer, being the person that puts out happiness. But social media has, to me, become this place of negativity. And I know that's what you're trying to break up, be the break in the feed, as you said earlier. How do you think that social media has played out and will play out in the future in terms of positives versus negatives?
And so I have a few thoughts, and no matter how we feel about it, whatever I'm about to say, like, it doesn't matter. It is what it is. Like,
Right.
it's here to stay. It has happened. It's going to continue happening. There's nothing we could do now. Like, we've opened Pandora's box, so to say. Like, I always say that, like, the perfect golden era, like, time to be alive was like early 2000s. It was just like social media was a thing, but it wasn't the thing. Like, you had a life outside of social media. Like, it wasn't, everyone wasn't online all the time. And so we went past that point. I think like 2012, 13 is when people became chronically online, and the negative aspects of social media really started to show themselves. And now, and it depends. It's like a fulfilling algorithm where if whatever you're watching, you'll get fed more of it. And so you can go like down like a deep rabbit hole of things that are making you depressed, but you can't look away, or things that make you feel like less sufficient or just not as happy. If you watch that content or you engage with that content, you're going to be fed more of that content, and you're going to be less happy, and it just perpetuates itself. So yeah, I mean, social media, it's all about driving engagement and divisiveness. And what does that is, topics that are going to be controversial and make people argue. So people are it's promoted. They have a benefit to put something out there that is going to get negative feedback or possibly be controversial, just so they can get an argument started in their conversation or in their comments, just so they can get stitched. So that's the easiest route to virality, is doing something or saying something that a lot of people are not going to like to hear or like to see. And then that's going to stoke a fire. You'll be viral for the wrong reasons, but you'll go viral nonetheless. And yeah, so I think the feed is filled with all that type of stuff, which is just based in a negative, it's coming from a negative place. And so like I said, we're the timeline cleansers.
Yeah.
We try to put stuff out there that's going to be the opposite, and it's just very refreshing to see. I just want no negativity portrayed, and I just want just because you can't even do that as a human. Like if you're a person influencer, you can't even like no matter what, people are gonna hate you for you name it. There's gonna be something about you that you can't even help that people are not gonna like. But a dog, I feel like is they're they have a good buffer, like, and it's really hard to dislike a dog. So you have a dog on your feed, it's gonna bring joy no matter who you are. It's
Right.
like to the biggest audience. And so, it's a cheat code to be in the dog content space and want to bring positivity. It's very easy.
A lot of your fan base are young kids, right? They're young kids. They know Brody. I know that being out with you and people stopping us. If you were a dad today, at what age would you allow your child to go on social media?
Okay, so TikTok, not until you're freaking 16, probably 16. I mean, but you also don't want your kid that's like, you don't want to have an environment where your kid is extremely sheltered and then everyone's talking about something that's very culturally relevant and you have no idea what's going on.
Right.
And that's going to hurt your social status and hinder your development. So you have to take that into consideration. But some of the things I see on TikTok and just the brainwashing that goes on as far as, well, I'm never going to get invited to another TikTok event ever again. Some of the brainwashing that just like has become normalized like in the last 3 or 4 years, which has just never been normalized. I think is very toxic, and I think it's terrible for like young developing brains to look at some of this stuff and think it's reality. So yeah, older for TikTok. YouTube, you can start your kids on YouTube Kids, which is like a filtered algorithm. So I think that would be the earliest thing. And then
Would you allow them though?
on YouTube Kids, for YouTube, I would allow I haven't put much thought into it, but it would be I would be very meticulous on like I just wouldn't give them an iPad and let them have free reign. Like I would set boundaries, and I would really think out like what is a healthy amount for them to be consuming and to be, revolving their life around. Because I don't want them to get caught up in all the fake BS, because they don't have. I would sit down and tell them everything you're about to see when you open this app is not real. These people on the other side of the screen have made this scenery, have set up their life to be portrayed in a way that is not real.
Right.
They have problems just like you do. Like this is a filter. This is not what they actually look like. This is surgery. This is not what they actually like. And I would just make sure that they know that this is not a depiction of reality. And until I was confident that they were going to be consuming from that aspect, I think you have to limit it and keep it some off limits. Like,
what is one of your goals in terms of content creation that you have not achieved yet?
I'm never like, I've never like hit a goal and like been like, okay, I'm done. Like I hit it. Like it was, it's metric wise, it's like you want to hit 100,000 followers, then you want to, the big numbers, 1 million, and then you want to hit 1 million on every platform. And then like for YouTube, we have like 5 point something million, but we want to hit that 10 million because you get a new diamond play button. So like as far as growth goes, like, that's always there, but there comes a point of like diminishing returns. Like as far as like if your Instagram account has 2 million followers and 2 million to 3 million, that's not going to move the needle in any meaningful way. You're not going to get more money for your brand deal. You're not going to be perceived really much differently if you have 2 million, 3 million. It's like once you like start hitting all those metrics and those goals, that like kind of just in the background, you always want more, but like you're not really that concerned with it.
Yeah.
I think being relevant is really cool, and it's never something I aspired to really do, but it just sort of happened. As far as this Brody being like this persona and this like celebrity dog, I think just being able to like remain relevant, and I always measure that success by if I go somewhere, how many times does Brody get recognized? Okay, yeah, he's still relevant. But just I don't know, goals. I'm really focused on building this Floof by Brody. and I'm leveraging social media obviously to do that, but I'd like to see this really take off, and that's been my main focus and my main concern, on like a sort of a separate brand side. But for our personal brand and stuff, like it is what it is. Like I am who I am. He is who he is. Our relationship is what it is, and we're always going to be evolving how to share that the best, most engaging way. But I'm not going to change, the way I am with him and the stuff we do. I'd be taking him on jet skis even if I didn't have a camera in front of my face. So yeah, that's kind of a hard question. I'd have to think about it more for specific goals. But yeah,
But I think what you just said is something you just said, and it was in passing, but you said if there wasn't a camera, I would still be doing this.
yeah,
And that is something I apply in a lot of things in my life, and I have done that for a very long time. I'll specifically talk about watches. Watches are something where nowadays, in the past 10 years, the watch, even in the past 5 years since COVID, the watch game, shall I call it, has turned into this flex competition,
Yeah.
right? Whereas before that, I loved watches still, and I always had a passion for watches. I like the workings of the watch. I like understanding, okay, why is this watch more rare? What makes this watch more rare? But I think if people can be who they want to be, like you just said, if they can take their dog on a jet ski without the cameras and still enjoy it, that passes through to them enjoying it on camera, right? You can kind of tell. And something you and I have talked about is authenticity, whether it's essential or non-essential in terms of someone's public persona. What would you say to that? Do you think it is essential or it is not essential?
What exactly?
Authenticity.
Oh, um, so I've mentioned to you before that as much as people say being authentic is a key to being successful, it definitely helps, and it definitely people can sometimes pick up on it. But I've seen too many examples of people who are inauthentic on camera and are and have seen great success on social
Yeah.
media. Social media doesn't necessarily reward authenticity. I
Yeah.
think when you're building that deeper community that really wants to know you and really growing the personal brand, I think being authentic is really important. But even then, I've just seen too many times where someone is one way online and then you meet them at an event. You may meet these influencers at an event and you are just taken back, like, this is how you actually are. This is crazy. And if your audience knew that this is how you actually were, I don't think the tone of their comments and the why they follow you would line up with themselves. So I think it is very possible to be very inauthentic and be successful on social media. I don't see how that could be fulfilling and how you could be happy doing this long term if you have to put on a fake persona every time you have to film a piece of content. That sounds like, a ball and chain, and it's like it's almost a curse. So I would never want to do that or be that, but I can say that I do know people who are inauthentic and quite successful. I'm not talking about in the pet space also, just for the record. These are just like more your generic LA influencers.
But if the shoe fits, no, just kidding with you. No, I think it's very interesting, right? Because of Olivia, because of you, because of me recognizing that there's a need for a tax expert in the influencer space, you get to really see how people are offline, right? And to me, it's kind of amazing to see how different people can be offline.
Right.
Would you say that the majority of the people that you come across that are creators, doesn't even have to be in the pet space, could be in just lifestyle fashion, do you think that they are genuinely happy or they're genuinely not happy? Just from what you can tell.
It's all their perspective. I've seen a lot that are happy, but I probably have seen more that are unhappy. The ones that are happy are the ones, and there's a high correlation with this. The ones that I've seen are happy are the ones that have had professional work experience and have lived life prior to social media. So it's usually a little older. They'll usually be in their 30s. And this is something that fell into their lap and they started to pursue full time, and they seem to be happy. The ones that seem unhappy are the younger people who never worked that corporate job to really like see what the real world's about,
Yeah.
and kind of just started the social media, and this is all they know. And so they have nothing to base it off of. So they don't even know how good they have it in some
Right.
aspects.
Right.
And so they can't even be happy and appreciate it for what it really is. So I would definitely say the younger people who kind of fell into this are definitely less happy than the people who have experienced life prior to any sort of internet fame, relevance, and can kind of appreciate it a little more.
Yeah, that's interesting because I would say for me, I see a lot of unhappiness, but I think it's so ironic because I think it stems from the comparison of other people on social media,
Right.
which is why they're unhappy. Which, like I said, it's so ironic because here you are, an internet personality, unhappy because you're comparing your life to another internet personality
Right.
who was probably unhappy off camera
Right.
too. But it's so interesting, and that is the one thing that I've always recognized in you is you are genuinely happy and you love what you do. I don't
Right.
think a day, yeah, probably days go by where you're annoyed, you have to do something you don't want to do.
Very rarely.
Yeah, I was going to say very rarely, but for the most part you do everything with a smile, you're always happy. And I think it goes a long way to say that you get to do it with your best friend,
Right.
right? You
That
get
helps.
yeah, you get to do everything with your best friend. But I guess I would ask you the question of when you're traveling with Brody, do people ever heckle you? Be like,
No,
never?
never. Like,
Or maybe heckle is the wrong word. Do you ever go to a place where not even because it's Brody, just because it's a dog, Brody is unaccepted?
well, you were there in Toronto. Never going back to Toronto, first of all. That was the least dog friendly city I've ever been to. It's just the culture there was very different, and the rules there are very different. So we definitely didn't feel welcome there. And
No.
I don't want to go into details of like
Yeah.
everything that happened, like
Yeah.
with something that like should have never happened. But
Crazy story that
crazy.
we will never be able to tell.
Yeah,
but
I
crazy.
can't talk about it because it involves. I can't even talk about it, but it's. I would say that was really the only time that it really was like I want to get out of here. Like I don't. This isn't a good environment for me or Brody, and like, yeah, that's pretty much so.
Have you ever dropped Brody off somewhere when they were like, "Oh, we wanted your," or do you always have to be with Brody?
Who am I going to trust with Brody? Unless I'm not dropping Brody off anywhere. I'm not.
One time we did prank Cliff as we were someone and we were like, yeah, you just need to drop Brody off
Yeah,
here,
you
which is
get
why
a spoofed phone number, and I
Yeah.
was like, you must have.
he was so happy and positive and friendly at the first half of the call, and then we
Yeah.
were like, yeah, we need you to you don't need to be here, just drop Brody off. And immediately his whole tone and rhetoric changed. He's like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah, that's
I'm
not happening. I
I'm
don't
not
know.
doing that.
Yeah.
No, like, wait, what? But yeah, I think, listen, Cliff, it's really, really cool to see everything you've accomplished. And I think it's a testament to the person you are, that you get to spread this positivity. Obviously, I think that's the main message of today's episode, is spreading positivity and ensuring that people have something. I like the break that you call it, right? As they're scrolling of
Right.
this positivity. But again, I still think it's so cool what you've been able to do. Like when I tell people what you've been able to do, who was I talking to? Oh, I'll tell you who I was talking to. The night when everything happened, I ended up getting an IV that Friday after because I was so dehydrated from that night. And the person came over for the IV, and it's always the same company. So I'm talking to the girl, and then I'm showing her the clips, and she's like, oh my God, talking about the cars. Those are cool cars. And people just cannot believe the success you've obtained through Brody, and through building Brody's brand and through building this brand image with Brody. Has there ever been a time where you sat there and you just like can't believe it? Like you bought this amazing house,
Yeah, I mean, all the time. I don't take any of it for granted. And like I said, I have such a good base of reality on where I was just for a few short years prior to this,
Yeah.
and how different my life is now. And there's no way I could have ever predicted that when I started posting them and I started just growing this account, that the opportunities and everything that's come our way would come our way. And I forget who said this. Damn. It was a big creator. It could have even been Mr. Beast, but someone was explaining like the road in content creation. It's kind of like monkey bars, or like you're a monkey swinging through the forest, and like you're just grabbing onto the next branch that presents itself, and then you're swinging, you're grabbing onto the next branch, and there's no way that you would be able to predict your path prior. And so like the things that have come across our table, the things that we've been able to do, there's just no way you would have ever expected it. And that's how I kind of think with you guys also just starting off. And you were even talking about like, eventually we're gonna have to like learn how to monetize, like the opportunities that will come your way if you're consistent and you stick with it. You would never be able to predict. Yeah, you can lay out a plan, and this would be good to happen, that would be good to happen, but the outreach that you'll get, the networking you'll make, and like just the opportunities that will pop up, you can't predict it. And then you'll start following it when you see something's working or when you see a good opportunity, and then that'll lead to something else. And it's just impossible. It's impossible to foresee. So yeah, that's that. As long as you just always remember, it's like, okay, this is amazing, and you have appreciation for it, and you don't take it for granted. I think like,
being able to consistently put out value to people in a way that is either entertaining or educational or informative is so imperative in the world of podcasting. And I will say that relates over to other things in life. So when you talk about grabbing onto the next branch, right? If you're swinging, using that analogy, it's so true. What would you say to the audience in terms of having some sort of structure? Is it super key, or should you just follow the next thing to the next thing?
No, it's definitely a key component. And it's funny, you mentioned people not caring because it's cool. And it's so true. Like the people who fail a lot of times are the people who are just trying to be nonchalant, cool about it, and think that makes them look cooler. Those people usually fail. But a lot of times your favorite influencer whose whole persona is on screen not caring and being nonchalant, behind the screen they're a beast. Like they'll be like very structured, very professional, and so they maintain that like that workflow that they couldn't actually maintain if their whole life was that nonchalant personality they have. But it works well with the audience and it makes them comfortable, and they know that. And then behind the scenes they're putting in the work. So treating it like a job, and treating it, and I keep going back to like, that professional work experience like that I've had. Like you kind of just apply that exact same mindset. Like you're clocking in today at this time, this is where you're done for the day, and you might have to take these emails, you might have to do whatever, even after, when you don't want to do after your typical work day. Just being willing to do that, and treating it more serious, and being serious about it, like putting in the effort for it is like, it's for any sort of longevity, you need to do that.
Yeah, I always say, I think the biggest beneficial thing a 14-year-old person could do is go and do 4 or 5 different internships until you turn 18, and it's time for you to go to college. So I think there's so many things that people don't do but could do, especially when you're younger. Because also too, like, people look at the youth now, and I don't really see the youth working as hard as they once did. Like, what was the first job you ever got, or how old were you?
I was 15. I worked at the swap shop. You know where that is?
Yeah.
It's like a flea market, and I was selling knockoff sunglasses at a booth, like 4 pairs for $20 or something. That was my first job. But side note, when you're saying that icebreaker thing, is there anything worse? Like my personal hell was being in a classroom and having to go around the classroom and just introduce yourself, say a fun fact, silly, wacky fact about you, or why you're here, or whatever. Like that was my personal hell. Like you just gave PTSD saying that. But yeah, no, I think you're spot on.
I hated reading out loud. I hated reading out loud because I'm dyslexic, and so I was the student like reading. I would like count. Okay, if you're here, like this is where I'm gonna be, and so like I'm reading it ahead of time to see like okay. And then if I didn't know the word, I would just straight up, I don't know this word, Well, I hated that.
Well, you were an ambitious 14-year-old with 4 internships. Like I was still playing video games, I think then.
But you worked at 15.
Yeah.
I don't even when you like if I go to Publix, because in Michigan, like the one job you could get with a worker's permit was being a bagger at Kroger, if you heard of Kroger before.
Yeah.
And like I looked at doing that, and Ben knows then I did not do that. I went in. I actually guess I did landscaping first, but like my first like official W-2 job was being a dancer at bar mitzvahs, and then I transitioned into a
dancer.
DJ. Yeah, I was a dancer at bar mitzvahs. I'd be like, then I transitioned to a DJ like host. We're at Cliff's bar mitzvah here. We're gonna have some fun. Come to the dance floor. I got iTunes gift cards for you. You know, like getting everyone to the dance floor, like playing the song, and then oh my God, there were so many times where think about being that young, and then you're in control of someone's like one of their life events they remember forever. You know, they're going and lighting the candles. They're like, Boca Raton with Granny and Nanny was so fun together. Come and help me light candle 8, whatever rhyme they could put together. And then I'd like have to cue the song, and I always worried I'm going to like play the wrong song or something.
DJ Mav.
Yeah. But yeah, those experiences, they help build character.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think with the younger generation, they live in a different world than you did, or definitely than I did. And like the opportunities that are there, things just don't make sense to them of why there's value there. And I get it. Like I understand, like, okay, when you're gonna take this job and make, $8 an hour or whatever it is, like that doesn't really get you anything now. But there's just so many other opportunities and other channels that they can go down that is promising something more. That's like, why would I ever spend my time here working when I could just start an affiliate link? And you can definitely make the equivalent of $8 an hour. Anyone could almost do that. So it's like, why do that more traditional job, which has a lot of value, not being monetary, because now the money doesn't make sense for them, so they can't even gain those other valuable traits that they can get from those jobs. So I think that's also how the mindset has shifted. And why a lot of people are unmotivated to even like do something like that, which I get. I understand.
Yeah, well, Cliff, this has been awesome. I appreciate it. Give out everything: socials, Floof products. Give out anything you want to give out and pitch everything.
All platforms: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. It's Brody That Dude, BRODIE that DOOD, dude as in doodle. If you want to follow along, and then if you have a dog and you want their coat to smell and look amazing, Floof by Brody, FLOOF.
Can you use it on humans or no?
I've used it on my beard before and my hair, the shampoo. It's great. Floofbybrody.com. You can check that out. We're actually having a Labor Day sale right now, but I know this won't go live in time for that. Yeah, man, thanks for having me. That was fun.
Yeah. One last question before we end, because I forgot. 2 last questions, actually. First one is, I've always wondered this, and we talked about it one time, but why did you hit me up that day to like whatever it was, either about watches or dinner?
Oh, dinner.
Yeah.
I don't even remember. I don't know.
Because it was like, yeah, we talked. I talked to your cousin most of the time.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I honestly don't remember. I think I was just trying to network with someone that I saw was young and like ambitious and like business oriented, which is very rare for me to meet, especially at like influencer type events. So yeah, I think that's why I was like, could be someone good to have in my network.
All right. I thought it was maybe because my hair was like floofy. But last question. What do you wish you knew when you were in your early 20s?
Oh man, so much.
The question that gets everyone.
Yeah, in my early 20s, I'm a completely different person. So if you knew me when I was 21 and you see me now, like you don't know me. Like nothing you know about me holds true almost to this day. I've just grown so much and changed. But early 20s, my mindset was just I just didn't understand the things that we were talking about earlier, which was how you can be in control of your life. And if you don't want to go down a certain path, you have to make that happen. Otherwise, if you just go with the flow, you're going to end up where you were. And 21 to 31 goes by so much faster than you could ever imagine when you're 21 years old. You never, like when you're 21, 30 sounds, you're done. Like you're really old. But It comes so fast, and time goes so quick that if you're not like proactive and making the moves, like I said, I was just kind of along for the ride. My dad said I should get an accounting degree, so that's why I went and got an accounting degree. And then, what do you do with an accounting degree? You work in an accounting firm, and what you're supposed to, what's the goal? To be a CPA and start your own firm, and everything just kind of just lays itself out for you. And if you're not like, I don't want to use the word renegade, but if you're not gonna like veer off the path, or if you're afraid to do that, then your life will just happen to you, and your time will pass you by, and you'll wonder like, how did I get here? So I do wish that was sort of implanted in my head a little more, and not to think so traditionally about a lot of things, because I love my dad, but he's very conservative, very traditional like mindset as far as just like how life should be. And like, he was just like, the idea of being an influencer or whatever, like a content creator, was just so abstract, and like he had to really get used to that idea, which now he is. But and he's very happy for everything that we've done. But just listening to your parents and just having, and you're just adapting whatever they have. And a lot of times, if they're more traditional, like this would be, going in the creator economy would just be kind of unheard of and almost scoffed at. So you have to be like brave enough to sort of endure that, and like willing to prove them wrong to a degree. But yeah, that's probably what I would help teach my 21-year-old self.
All right. Well, there you go. On that note, Luna and my dogs are probably the only ones that I'd allow for this shedding to happen.
You got more hair.
I got a lot. She's been sitting here for like 2 hours. I'm just rubbing her. But thank you again. And thank you, everybody.